On Thursday at 10:30 a.m., the Senate Banking Committee will vote the Clarity Act out of committee on a party line 13-11 vote. The financial press will call this a breakthrough. It is not. It is the easiest of four gates. The next three are harder, and the math breaks at the second one. Here is what nobody is telling you about Thursday's vote and why the coverage is dangerously wrong. Four things. First, why the committee vote is the one most likely to succeed. Second, where the 60-vote math collapses on the Senate floor. Third, what reconciliation does to a bill that already barely survives the Senate. And fourth, the calendar gate, the one nobody is talking about, and my prediction for where this bill actually lands. If this is the kind of forensic analysis that is useful to you, please subscribe. I publish this so you have the information that the people who benefit from your confusion would prefer you not have. There's a famous problem in computer science called the Byzantine generals problem. It's a 1982 thought experiment about achieving consensus when participants may be faulty, malicious, or unreliable, where political intrigue, complex internal power struggles, schemes, and betrayals are to be expected. Which brings me to the US Congress. Blockchain may be Byzantine fault tolerant, but I'm not sure it's proof against the machinations of Congress. The financial press and crypto pundits are giving you a clean, short story right now. Clarity will pass committee, clarity is moving, everything is fine, the future is bright. And look, the future may well be bright, but the story they're telling you about this bill is not the full story, and the parts they're leaving out are the parts that matter most. There are four gates between Thursday's committee vote and a presidential signature. I'm going to walk you through all four, tell you who controls each one, and at the end, give you my prediction on where this actually lands. On Thursday, the Senate Banking Committee will do something that the American Bankers Association, the Bank Policy Institute, and the Independent Community Bankers of America have spent considerable time and money trying to prevent. The Banking Committee will vote on the Clarity Act. Committee Chairman Tim Scott held the May 14th date despite all three banking trade groups formally rejecting the Tillis-Alsobrooks stablecoin compromise on May 9th, 4 days before his markup. That rejection was not a negotiating gesture, it was a demand for postponement, and Senator Scott said no. I'm putting 90% odds on committee passage. If there's a vote, it will fall 13-11 on party lines. If Scott pulls the bill before the vote, it means someone in his caucus blinked, and you'll know the banking lobby got what it came for. But here's what the financial press is not saying. The banking lobby does not lose this week if that happens. They'll lose this fight, but there is a significant difference, and understanding that difference is the whole point of this video. The banking lobby knows the committee vote is the starting line. The financial press is telling you it's the finish line. The banking lobby has a credible play at every gate that follows, and in at least one of them, they have a very unlikely ally. If the committee votes Thursday, the bill goes to the Senate floor, but not immediately and not simply. The first procedural hurdle is cloture, which is the Senate's mechanism for ending debate and forcing a vote. Cloture requires 60 votes, not a simple majority. 60. In a chamber where Republicans hold 53 seats, that means 7 Democratic senators need to cross the aisle. Here's the timing that matters. Once cloture is filed, Senate rules require a 2-day waiting period before the cloture vote can even be held. If it passes, there's then a mandatory 30-hour post-cloture debate period before the floor vote. That is 3 to 4 days of open lobbying window between cloture and the final vote. The banking lobby has operated in Washington for over a century. They know how to make good advantage of those 3 or 4 days. Now, most of the framing is that the Democratic opposition is an ethics fight. And it is. But it's worth being precise about why. Senator Gillibrand has made it a stated condition that clarity include conflict of interest language barring senior federal officials from profiting off crypto. Senator Warren has been even more direct, arguing the bill as written could, in her words, turbocharge Donald Trump's crypto corruption. Bloomberg has estimated that Trump and affiliated ventures generated at least $1.4 billion from crypto-related activities, including his meme coin and ties to World Liberty Financial. That is genuine opposition. It is also, for the banking lobby, a gift. Elizabeth Warren has spent her entire career as the most visible enemy of big banking in the United States. The banking lobby has spent hundreds of millions of dollars making that position credible. And here they are, on the same side, for entirely different reasons, with entirely compatible short-term goals. Warren wants the ethics provision because Trump's crypto exposure is a political liability she can use. The banking lobby wants the bill dead because Coinbase and the crypto exchange industry represent a competitive threat that they have not yet been able to regulate into submission. Neither of them need the other. They don't need a coalition. They don't need to compromise anything. They just need to hold the same votes. This is not coalition politics. That is a convergent interest, and it is more durable than it looks precisely because there's no agreement to fall apart. The most frequently cited Democratic crossover is Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona. But he's only one vote, and one vote does not get Republicans to 60. Cloture passes. 60 senators hold. The debate clock starts running. Now we're at the floor vote. And this is where the banking lobby's second play comes in, and it's a quieter one. The floor vote is a simple majority, 51 votes. Republicans have 53 seats. On paper, they can lose 2 and still pass the bill. In practice, the banking lobby only needs to find 2 or 3 Republicans willing to vote no or willing to be absent to kill it. This is not a hypothetical. The banking lobby's preferred outcome throughout this entire process has been a delay, not a rewrite. They demonstrated that in January when the original Senate banking markup was scheduled and Coinbase pulled its support over stablecoin yield, and the bill sat in limbo for 4 months. The delay is a kill. The Senate calendar in a midterm election year has a hard ceiling, and we'll get to that in Chapter 5. What makes the floor vote dangerous is precisely the gap created by the cloture debate window. 30 hours of mandatory debate is 30 hours of phone calls, meetings, and pressure on the 2 or 3 Republicans who represent states with large banking constituencies and no particular political need to be the deciding vote for a crypto bill. The banking lobby does not need to win the argument. They only need to win 2 conversations. And the banking lobby won't be working at that window alone. To get to this point, Senate Democrats will have had defectors that got the bill past cloture. You can be sure they'll be whipping their members to hold the line and vote no, even after having let the bill get to the floor. For 1 week in the Senate, the banking lobby and the Democrats will be on the same side. Truth really is stranger than fiction. Assume the bill passes the Senate. 60 votes for cloture, 51 on the floor, but the Senate bill is materially, substantively different from the House bill that passed during Crypto Week 2025, a year ago. The 2 bills must be reconciled, and reconciliation with the House is something the crypto press is almost entirely ignoring. The House passed its version of clarity on July 17, 2025, by a 294 to 134 vote. That was 10 months ago. And the Senate version coming out of Thursday's markup looks materially different. The Tillis-also-Brooks stablecoin compromise, the one the banking lobby formally rejected last week, was not in the House bill. The activity-based rewards language that Coinbase conditioned its support on, the language that brought Brian Armstrong back to the table with his mark it up post on X, that language is a Senate addition. The House has no obligation to accept it. Conference committee means reopening the stablecoin fight with a House that negotiated none of the Senate's compromises and owes none of the Senate stakeholders anything. Coinbase, Circle, and the broader exchange industry have made clear that their support is conditional on the activity-based rewards language surviving. If the House conference strips it, the industry support that held the Senate coalition together collapses, and the bill that emerges from conference may not be able to pass either chamber. If we ever get to this point, the banking lobby will get another attempt with a different set of members on the same provision. At this point, you're probably exhausted. Welcome to the legislative process. It is an absolute grind. But there's one last thing looming over the Clarity Act: the calendar. The White House has set a target of July 4 for a presidential signature. Senators Cynthia Lummis and Bernie Moreno have both said publicly that failure before Memorial Day, which is May 26, could push the next viable legislative window to 2030 or beyond. Those are not casual statements. They reflect a real constraint. Let's run the math. The committee votes Thursday, May 14. Memorial Day recess begins May 26. That is 12 days. In those 12 days, Senate leadership has to file cloture, wait 2 calendar days, hold the cloture vote, run the 30-hour debate window, hold the floor vote, and then send the bill to conference with the House. Conference has to produce a reconciled bill that both chambers will pass. The House then has to vote again. 12 days. Even if every procedural step goes cleanly, the reconciliation process alone typically takes weeks. And it's a little more complicated than I've even let on, because the Senate Agriculture Committee advanced its own separate digital asset market structure bill in January, so that bill's provisions also need to be merged with whatever comes out of Senate banking. There are 2 Senate bills and 1 House bill that all need to become one piece of legislation before July 4th. Here's my prediction. The Clarity Act clears committee Thursday. The coverage will be euphoric. Polymarket is currently sitting at 68% odds of passage in 2026, and those odds will spike on Thursday afternoon. And then the calendar will align with the banking lobby and Senator Warren. Strange bedfellows. I am putting the odds at 30% that a signed bill gets done in 2026. Not because the bill is bad. It's actually the most serious piece of crypto legislation Congress has ever produced, but because the Senate floor math requires Democratic crossover that the ethics fight makes structurally difficult, because the banking lobby only needs 2 Republican defections on the floor vote, and because reconciliation with the House reopens the stablecoin fight that nearly killed this bill 3 times already. The banking lobby will lose Thursday. They are playing for June, and June is a much harder game for crypto than Thursday ever was. Please subscribe. This is the analysis that doesn't make it onto the financial news ticker, and it won't. Because the people who run the financial news ticker are the same people who need you watching the wrong gate. I'm Dana Love, PhD, and as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.